Hi, I'm Jason Vallotton. Today I'm here to talk to you about taking care of your needs and how to get those met in a healthy way. I know that's a big topic for almost every person out there. There's a lot of buzz around needs so we're going to kind of break it down really simply for you today. Starting out, let's take a look at 1 Thessalonians 5:23. It says, "Now may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved blameless at the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ." What does that mean? What it really means is you first have to understand that you are a body, a soul, and a spirit. Now, for a lot of us, that's revelation, not that we're a body, soul, and a spirit, but that each part of you, your body, your soul, and your spirit has needs. Think about it for a second. If you just take care of your body needs, what would those be? Food, shelter, water, sleep, hygiene, the list goes on. If you just take care of those, your soul and your spirit are going to be hurting. And because we don't typically think that we have a soul and that we have a spirit, we don't think like that. We're not walking around going, "How's my spirit doing?" Oftentimes, you can be so focused on your spiritual life or so focused on your body, your physical self, that you totally lose sight of one of the other parts of you. So like your soul. And so I just want to take a second and talk through each one of those different categories and help to bring some revelation to how are you doing in each category. What is your spirit? Your spirit is the part of you that connects to God. So your spirit has needs. What are the needs? I'll just give you a couple. You can think about them for yourself. Worship, communion with God, hope, intimacy with God. Those are a couple things that are under your spirit needs. Faith, truth from God. Under the soul category, what is your soul? It's your mind, your will, and emotions. So things like positive self-talk would be under those needs. Adventure, connection with people, processing, and body needs, we already went over some of those. So you have to think of yourself as, I have needs, but I have needs in 3 different categories. And therefore, I need to be aware and paying attention to 3 different categories to make sure that I'm doing well. And we'll talk about that right now. What happens when you're so focused on your spiritual needs that you don't take time to exercise, eat well, or sleep well? Well, has anybody ever not slept for 2 or 3 days? I know that when I'm teaching a class, I'll typically have people raise their hands. Raise your hands if you haven't slept for 3 days, 2 or 3 days, or you've had a hard time sleeping. And it's funny because almost every person has gone through something like that before. And what you realize is that if you don't sleep well for 2 or 3 days, it begins to bleed into every area of life. It's pretty soon your thought process, right? So your soul begins to go downward, begins to spiral. Your spiritual life begins to spiral because you're so tired. I mean, your body will actually physically shut down if you don't sleep well. And vice versa. What happens when you exercise, you're taking care of your body really well, but you go through a little bit of a hopeless time? You can't hear God's voice. You're having a hard time believing what He's telling you. It's really interesting. When our spirit needs are suffering, eventually we become hopeless, right? Your hope in God suffers, and then pretty soon you're staying up at night trying to solve that, and your thought process starts to get messed up, and you really have a hard time actually figuring out, how do I get back to normal? How do I get emotionally well? Well, we have to stop for a second and realize that if your spirit isn't doing well, it's going to affect your soul and it's going to affect your body. There's just no way getting around that. They all are interlinked. They're all connected. And so we want to make sure that when you're thinking throughout your day, when you're thinking about yourself, that you're going, how am I doing spiritually? How am I doing mentally? Am I processing with people? Is my process, is it hope-filled? Is my self-talk positive or is it negative? And then am I exercising? Am I sleeping well? How do I feel about myself in those areas? Because again, you can't have one area doing bad and not have it affect all the other areas. And if we're going to thrive emotionally, mentally, and physically, we're going to have to become more aware about how we're doing personally. And so take some time this week to think through, what are my needs emotionally, spiritually, and physically, so that you actually begin to know yourself so that you can take care of yourself well.